This
selected your.
conference will now be recorded.
So once I say Python 3, Python 3 notebook will be getting opened up. So when friends, as you observed, when I clicked there new, I had installed only one version, that is Python 3. You could install other versions of Pythons as well. Any other versions of Python also could be installed and you could use them. So this is one way. So going forward, so once you reach here, yeah. So once you reach here, you can see that this is my panel, which we have. Now, one very important thing is here we'll be writing our whole Python code. Whatever you can see here in the green, this is called as a cell. Now, this cell can be of different types. Right now, it is a code cell. You can observe here, it has been written right now, it is a code cell. Now, this cell can also be converted into any other cell. Like say, for example, I want to do any comments, I want to do any documentation, then I will be selecting this markdown. And say, for example, I want to do write any heading, then I will be writing a heading by selecting this heading tab. Now, what is this markdown? Markdown is nothing but it is one of the methods to write a comment. Now, why we should use this markdown itself? Markdown is one of the popular markup languages which is very oftenly used, and it readily gets converted into a HTML code. That is why your Jupyter Notebook is providing with the option of markdown. Now, I will show you how I'll write a simple example wherein I'll try to execute it. Like say, for example, I will take a variable x and I will assign it to some numbers, say 1, 2, 3, right? So right now it is a code cell, so therefore a code is being executed. So right now what will happen is, so I want to run this. So if I want to run this, what I will be doing is I'll be pressing this run button. Either I will be pressing this run button. So once I press this run button, the particular cell has been run and the variable x has been assigned with these numbers. So this is a plain thing. Now, usually programmers have a habit of to not to use the cursor a lot. So we would like to use the keyboards. So therefore, we have a shortcut here in order to execute this cell. So one shortcut we have is press Control Enter. So I'll be pressing this Control Enter. Before pressing the Control Enter, you can observe here a number 1 has printed. So a number 1 shows that it has been executed once. Now I will press Control Enter. Okay, so after pressing Control Enter, you can observe here a number 2 has come. It means that it has been executed twice. Now I want to see, I want to execute this particular cell, and as well as I want to create a new cell. Then there is one more shortcut called as Shift Enter. So now I have pressed Shift Enter. You can observe it has been executed thrice and it has come to the new cell. So again, I will press Shift Enter. So you can see here again a new cell has been created. Now I want to check what is there inside this X. So I will say print X and I will say Shift Enter. So you can see here that the value of X has been executed. That has been printed. So this is how you can run your cells. So you can observe here, you have learned two shortcuts now. One is how to run a cell, that is using Shift Enter or using your Control Enter. So this is how you would be doing. Now, again, a simple thing. Say, for example, I want to, so what I will do, I will create one more small array, say 112, 30, something like this. And I will say Shift Enter, and I will print the value of this. Okay. Now I have created so many cells. Say I want to cut any cell. So if I want to cut any cell, the simple shortcut we have is X. So say I want to cut this cell. I want to cut this execution of Y cell. So I'll just press X. So pressed X. So when I press X, the cell has been cut, and I want to paste it now. So if I want to paste it, I'll just press a V. So you can observe here, the cell has been cut as well as pasted. Now say I want to copy a cell. So say I want to copy the same cell. The shortcut which could be used is C. So I'll press C. I press C now, and I will copy it here. So to copy it, to paste it is V. So I pasted it. So you can observe here, the same cell has been copied and has been pasted here. right? So these are some of the shortcuts. Now say there are multiple cells and I want to delete a particular cell. Then what I will be doing is I need to press my D twice. So I will be pressing D twice. So if I press D twice, I can delete the unwanted cells. So in this fashion, we can delete your unwanted cells. So this is how you will be doing your various shortcuts. Now let us see what is the use of this markdown language. Say for example, before going into markdown language, say I want to create a cell. I want to create a cell above this cell. Then I will be using a key A. So when I press A, click it outside, and when I press A, it means that a cell has been created. So right now this is a code cell. Now before going there further, say I want to create a cell below. I want to create a cell below, just press the key B. So I'll be pressing a key B, then you can see that a cell has been created below. Now I want to convert this code cell into a, say, markdown cell. So I would like to convert this code cell into a markdown cell, or you can say I want to convert it into a comment cell. Then very simple, just press yum. So once I press yum, you can see there the option has been changed to markdown. So if I want to type anything, say I will say this is beginning. Okay, and I will execute it. So you can find out that this is my comment right now. Okay, so it will not be executed. Now I want to convert this comment into a heading. So if I want to convert this comment into a heading, just put a hash mark and say control enter. Okay, or this is one of the shortcuts, or the other way is just double click here, and what you can do is it is readily available here. Go down, and here you can convert it into a heading. So you can observe here that the first line has been converted into heading, and press control enter. So you can see this is the beginning, this is my heading. Okay, so these are some of the shortcuts of your Jupyter notebook. Going forward, so this is how you go on writing your code. One very important thing is you can either execute these individual cells or you can execute all the cells at once. So when you press at here cell, you can see here it will say run cells, or it will say run all the above, or it will give you an option like run all the below cells. So this is also possible. Now, besides that, you have something called as kernel. Now, kernel is very important because you might have heard about kernel even in your OS operating system. So the kernel here is also very similar. It is a computational engine that will execute the code in a notebook format. Right now, the kernel which we are using is IPython, that is the Python kernel. We can shift to any other kernel, like say, for example, I can also shift to my R programming kernel, or I can change the version of the kernel. That is, say, for example, I can use Python 3 or Python 2.8, something like that. Even that could be done with the help of the kernel. Next comes is your widgets. So widgets is very important. It would be very helpful when you go on coding. Say, for example, you want to put a linear bar. If you want to put a linear bar, then you can use this widget. It acts like a small gadget. Okay. Some examples of your widgets are, it could be a line space, or it could be a numeric value, it could be a boolean, or it could be some animation. So when you click on this widgets, it will give you various options. How it will also give you an option to download the widgets as well as embed the widgets. So this is how you can use your widgets button. Okay, so before moving forward, if I use this kernel can also be changed. Say, for example, if I have installed any other Python things, then you can change the kernels here by going to this option, says change kernel. Okay, so this is all regarding your Jupyter notebooks, and this is how you can use your Jupyter notebooks for a number of things. So to give you a short glimpse what all we have seen, so you can see here, these are my Jupyter notebook shortcuts. Like the first one is control enter, wherein you will be seeing the various options, like what is the option to execute a cell. One is control plus enter. The option to execute and create a new cell is nothing but shift plus enter. To copy a cell, it is C. To cut a cell, it is X. To paste a cell, it is V. So these are some of the shortcuts. Going forward, some other shortcuts. This is just a recap which we have done till now. To create a cell above, A. To create a cell below, B. And to delete, it is twice, it is D. M is to markdown, and Y is to convert a markdown cell to code cell. Kernel you have seen already, it's a computational engine, and widget is something, it acts like a gadget. So these all things we have covered already. So next very important thing we'll be touching is that what is our Colab? What is our Google Colab, and why we should study this Google Colab, or why we should know this Google Colab. Now, Google Colab is very important because for few simple reasons. First of all, it is by Google. So when I say it is by Google, it means that it is fast and it is reliable. That is, it is very reliable in respect to your execution wise, as well as with respect to your security wise. Next very important thing is this Google Colab is based on Jupyter Notebooks. So once you know Jupyter Notebooks, it is very simple and easy to use this Google Colab, right? Now, other very important thing is it's not complicated. It's very simple tool. It could be easily used. And the very major thing or very important thing of your Google Colab is it gives you something called as GPU, that stands for Graphical Processing Unit. Now, when we try to do machine learning things or deep learning things, it becomes very important that we should have our computational power. And most of our systems lack with this computational power. The amount of power which our CPU has is very less whenever we want to train a particular model. So therefore, we will be requiring this GPU. So if I want an access to GPU, it goes very costly sometimes. So therefore, what we do is we would be requiring this GPU, and this GPU is freely provided with the help of the Google Colab. When you use Google Colaboratory, you will be having an access to its GPU. So this is so to make you understand what is the difference between GPU and CPU. I have made a small chart here. You can see. So GPU has many cores. You can observe here. GPU has many cores. There's those green dots which you can see are nothing but the many cores, whereas CPU has very few cores, right? And coming to next point, it has very high throughput. The amount of throughput you have is very high when you use a GPU. And the major advantage here is you will be getting parallel processing. You will be having a parallel processing, whereas in a CPU, you have a serial processing. Now, next very important thing is here you can observe the last point. You can do a handful of operations at once, but whereas here you can do 1,000 of operations at once. So this is major thing which is very important. That is, you can do simultaneous programming. You can observe here, one is parallel processing and a number of operations. That's why we require your GPU. So coming to GPU, you have another such similar thing called as TPU, which stands for TensorFlow Processing Units. This TensorFlow Processing Unit is not available in all the systems. We cannot buy this TensorFlow Processing Units. So therefore, if I want to use any TPU, then I can use your Google Colab. So in order to make you understand more about TPU, this I will touch upon in the next section, wherein we'll try to touch upon how your TensorFlows can be used in Google Colab. Okay, so before moving ahead, we'll try to see how this your Google Colab will look. Okay, so if I want to use Google Colab, what I'll be doing is just press this. You go to a new tab. And one more major advantage of your Google Colab is it has many inbuilt libraries which we require to use for your say deep learning, machine learning, or for data science. If I want to use, then I would be requiring this n number of libraries. So if I want to use this n number of libraries, I need to do n number of installations. This Google Colab is ultimate for the people who don't want to do any environmental setup. Say for I am a guy who is not interested in doing any environmental setup, then you can very easily use this Google Colab. Okay, so open a new tab and just press here Colab. Okay, yeah, once you press Colab, so you can select this. So your Colab will be opening now. Once you open a Colab, you can see that the menu which will be operating coming is will be something like that. One second. Yeah. So this is the menu which you will be getting once you open your Colab, and you can observe here. It will give you n number of options whether I want to create a new notebook or something like that. Right now I will say cancel, and we will see other things like how it executes and all those things. Okay, so this is a ready-made notebook which is created by your Google, wherein he will try to explain you what is the Google Colab, how you can use Google Colab, what are the various advantages. Like he'll give you some examples as well, where so you can just go through this. Now, the next very important thing is, say I want to create a new notebook, then go to this file and say new notebook. So this new notebook, whatever we are creating right now, is nothing but is a notebook which is based on Jupyter notebooks. That's why till now I tried to touch upon few things regarding your Jupyter notebook. Okay. So once you, so this is one way, that is directly you can go to Colab and you can open the Jupyter, open your new files, or the other way is you can just go to your drive and also you can open it. Okay. So once you open this, this is what you will be getting. You can find out here the same type of cell we have got. So if you see here, if you just move here, you can see that it could be a code cell or it could be a text cell. We can convert it into a code cell or a text cell, similarly how we did in your Jupyter notebooks. Okay. Now moving forward, this right now, say it's a code cell. Say I will again take a small example. I will assign x is equal to some 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I want to execute this cell. Either I can use Shift Enter or I can use this play button. So once I run this play button, you can see that the cell is already running, is showing you, and it will be showing you the assigned value. Okay, so it is running, friends. One second. Yeah, it has run. Now I will be pressing Shift Enter so that a new cell could be created. So it has run and a new cell has come. Now I will say X, and again I will say Shift Enter. So you can see when I press X, that means that the value of X has been recorded. It is showing you the value of X. So this is very similar to your Jupyter notebooks. So this is a code cell. Now I want a text cell. So if I want a text cell, what you can do is say I want a text cell here. So just click here and say text. So here you can see a text cell has been created. So double click here and say I want to create a heading. So that if I want to create a heading, then I'll be pressing this and I'll be giving a heading. Say this is a sample. Okay. And after doing this, I'll be just doing Control Enter. So you can see here, friends, that has been converted. The text cell has been converted into a heading. Okay, so this is one way. So apart from this, say I want to, so the best options he has given is we can also share it. So you can press this share button. So once you press this share button, it will give you various options. You can easily share with your fellow developers easily. It will give you the option of sharing, like you can just print their email IDs and you can share them. So here you can print any email ID and you can share them easily. Okay, so this is one way. This is one very major thing, that is how to share. And next very important thing is you can also upload any file. Say for example, I want to use the already existing file, then you can use this option, upload a notebook, then it will be converted into a Google Colab file. Okay, now this is some of the rudimentary things which we are seeing. Before moving ahead, one more small rudimentary thing is you can move your cells up and down. Either say for example, I want to move this cell up, then I can move this cell up, something like this. Or if I want to move it down, I can use it. I can move it down, something like this. Okay. So the moving of the cell has been given. Here you also have an option to share this cell, and here you have an option to delete the cell. So these are some of the things. Then one major thing which we have is here Google Colab gives you ready-made snippets. We can use ready-made code snippets. Like say for example, if I click this, it will show you the list of snippets which already Google Colab has. So these are some list of the snippets. Like say for example, I want to do some visualizations. Then I will say so I will say visualization and press enter. Maybe a spelling mistake. One second. Yeah. So when I press visualization, it will give you various options how you want to visualize your data. Like say for example, right now it has taken one visualization snippet. Like say for example, if I directly execute this, say I'll press this play button, I'll execute this play button, and then you can see that the visualization has been run, and you can clearly get a number of graphs. So if I want any such snippets, the simple example I have taken here is if I want to visualize any data, then we can use this small ready-made snippet which is already available. Okay, so this is one thing. Apart from that, you can also create sections. So say for example, I want to create a section. I'll just press this section, then a new section is created. Like say a new function you want to create, then you can take this new section and you can create, and you can give some heading here. So let us say it's a new section. So you can see here a new section has been created. So this is one thing. Apart from that, another beautiful thing with your Collabs is, say for example, it also gives you autocomplete things. Like say I will delete this now, and I have deleted it. So data dot I have done. So when I press this dot, you can see here it is giving me all the options which is available with it. So I can select any one of them. Say I will select cars, and I'll put braces, and I will execute it. So once I execute it, you can see that a graph has come. So this is how you can use your Google Colabs very efficiently. So going to the one major advantage which we spoke till now, that how we can use your GPUs and TPUs, right? So I need to go to this runtime, and here I will be taking an option called as change runtime type. So when I press this change runtime type, you will be seeing a number of options like what accelerators you want, what are the various things which you can use. 1 second, friends. Yeah. So here you can see you have various hardware accelerators. If you click on this drop down menu, it will give you the various accelerators which are available. The various accelerators which we have is your GPU and TPU. Now, what are these GPUs and TPUs? Which GPUs and TPUs would be allocated to you? That could be found out by pressing this more information, right? So this is one way. Before going ahead, I'll try to show you a small glimpse of how this Colab works by taking a small example. So I will take a small example of how this Collabs could be used. Uh, yeah. So what we'll do is we'll try to plot a sine wave using simple things. So friends, when I hope most of you might have went through Python. So Python has NumPy and Pandas as two major things. So maybe that we will be using most of the times in your deep learning and machine learning. Right now, I want to plot a sine wave with the help of your NumPys. Okay, so I want to import that library NumPy. So importing is very simple. Just type here import and name of the library. So it is giving you an option import numpy as np. Now I want to plot certain things. So therefore I would be importing matplotlib, which is very much essential. It works like your plotting. If I want to plot anything, then I would be using this. So I'll run this. So I've imported these things. So I will do a shift enter, and I have run, and I've created a new cell. Now I want to create a sine wave. So I will say x is equal to line space. So this line space is available in your NumPy. So therefore np dot line space, and I will say I want my values to start from 0, comma. It should be from 10 multiplied by, say I want a pi. If I want a sine wave, I want a pi. So therefore even that is also available in your NumPy. That's why I've taken here np dot pi, comma, say 1000 values. So this is my first line. Press enter. Now I want to assign it to a sign. So y is equal to np dot sine of what value? X. Whatever we are written here, that one. Y is equal to np dot sine x. Then so we have done this. So I will say shift enter. Yeah, this has been executed perfectly. Now I want to plot it. So therefore I'll say plt dot plot. What I want to plot? I want to plot your x and y. So x comma y. Okay. So I'll plot this x and y and say shift enter. So I should get a sine wave. Let us see. Yeah, we have got a sine wave. You can observe, very simple. So if I want to get a sine wave, no need to install these libraries. That is the advantage of your Google Colab. NumPy, no need to install. This Matplotlib, no need to install. Directly import them, call them up. They are already available in the online servers. Then use your coding skills and directly plot the value. Now I just say I want to just view the values of your sine. Then I'll say Y and I'll say enter. So sorry, I will say play button. So when I run this, it means that you can see n number of values of your sine. So these values are nothing but the values which you have plotted. So this is a simple example using your Colab. Now, if I, this is one thing. Before going further, I would like to show you one small, before finishing this session, I would like to show you one small example wherein how this Colab is helping us, how this Colab is speeding up our whole process. So if I want to speed up the whole process, well, I need to use your GPUs and TPUs. So this is one such example wherein we'll be using your GPUs and TPUs, and we would like to do classifications. This program, I have not written it personally. I have taken it from the internet. This program, whatever you are going to see right now, it is a classification program wherein it would like to identify the handwritten numbers. So if I want to identify this handwritten numbers, I need some data set. I need some data set. That data set which we are using is called as MNIST, which stands for Modified National Instrumentation of Standards and Technology Database. So we'll be using that database. Whatever the database you have, that is MNIST database, it is having some handwritten digits. So what we will be doing is we would like to form a small network, that is small neural network, wherein it would like to classify the handwritten images. So right now, friends, don't worry about the code, whatever you can see here. Just we would like to see the power of Colab, how Colab is helping us to execute such codes, wherein we would like to see how this Colab is helping us and how this is different from executing in a CPU. If you want to really try this out, you can execute the same thing in your editor windows or in your Jupyter notebooks, and the same thing you can also try in your Colab. Then you can easily find it out that how Colab is helping us out. So what we'll be doing is, one second, friends. Yeah. So first I would like to, yeah, one second, it is loading. Yeah. Yeah. Let us go through this code. Maybe there is some technical issue. Yeah, one second. Yeah. So before till then it loads, I will try to tell you some things regarding this whole program. See, friends, this what is this deep learning? Is deep learning is nothing but we'll be doing it with the help of some tools like Keras, or you will be also using some tools like PyTorch, or the other libraries we have is Theano. So this we would like to know what are these different libraries, how these could be used for your deep learning and machine learning. If you want to understand all these things, or you can say, if I want to do any image classification, or if I want to do any regression problems, then you will be requiring this various libraries like your Theano, PyTorch, or TensorFlow. Such things would be required. So friends, so it has loaded up. So first I will show you what is this runtime. So we'll go to this runtime. I'll click on this runtime. Yeah. So I'll say here change runtime type. Now you can observe here, friends, the runtime type we have is GPU. That is, it is using TensorFlow processing unit, and the hardware accelerator right now we are using is none. We can use any other hardware accelerators like you have seen GPUs or TPUs. Right now it's not required, so therefore we'll not be using it. And you can use either your GPU or you can use your Python 3. Any one of them could be used. Now, friends, when you go through this, so this whole notebook has been done with the help of the Keras and TensorFlow. So this is the data set which you can see. This is the data set, and yeah, this is where we have imported all your libraries, various libraries which would require to execute this code. And going forward, The next very important step is here we have loaded your training data. The training data, we have two types of data. One is training data and another one is test data. So we have loaded all your training data as well as test data. You can observe here we have made two things. One is train as well as test with the help of the same MNIST data set. Then after that, here you can observe we have plotted the figures. So you can see here again the same thing we have used, that is matplotlib, whatever we have seen just now while we're doing your sine wave plotting. So after plotting this matplotlib, then we'll be trying to check some small digits which are closer and print out the array which will be representing the last digit. So you can see here. Then finally, we need to format your input layer. That is, we don't want the input layer in the form of a matrix. It should be in the form of a vector. So therefore, we have flattened it out in the form of a vector. Then finally, we will be trying to modify the classes and build your whole network. This is your whole network, which is being built. And so this is the hidden layer. And after adding the hidden layer, we'll be adding first hidden layer and then the second hidden layer and finally the output layer. So once you do all these things, once you run this, we'll be compiling the code. So if you want to compile the code, you should know two very important things. One is loss function and the optimizer. And finally, you train the model. So this is where your GPUs and TPUs will come into picture. So right now, friends, don't worry about the rest of the codes. If you want, I can explain you later that whole code. So whatever you can see here, once I execute this thing, whatever you can see here, the epochs are nothing but the number of iterations. So if I want to train certain model using your normal CPU, this epochs would take a lot of time. But here in your Google Colab, it will take a very minimal time. Like say, for example, you might, so I have directly executed this code, so therefore I'm getting an error. So if you had observed, if you want to execute the whole code, what we'll be doing is we'll go up and we'll try to execute the whole codes. So say from here, I'll just say shift enter. So it will hardly take time. Yeah, we have imported all the libraries. We are importing the libraries. Yes, you have imported the libraries. We'll be loading the training data set now. Yeah. So you can observe this pause button here. It means that it is loading the training data set. So it has downloaded. Then we'll go forward. We'll try to plot the downloaded things, the matplotlib thing, which I told just now. Then we will see what is the last data which we have. Then we would like to format the input layer into an array. So this is where we have formatted the input layer into an array. And yeah, so this sequential models we'll be using. So this is my first layer. The activation functions and all those things we'll see later, friends. Right now, don't worry about those things. If you have taken an ANN subject, then you might have heard of these things, activation functions and all those things. So finally, we have reached to the output layer. Yeah. Yeah, we are doing the compilation. So we're training the model. Yeah. So this is where I am trying to tell you this epochs which you can see here right now. This time which is taking up such speed we cannot expect with your CPUs. Then we require your GPUs or your TFUs, TensorFlow unit, which you saw just now by going to this runtime. You can see here it is taking hardly very less time, say 7 seconds, 8 seconds, 9 seconds, something like that. The same thing if you try to do in your CPU, it would take a very large amount of time. So this is what I was trying to tell you. This is the major advantage of your Google Colab. So this is all about your Google Colab. Now, when we speak of Google Colab, there could be some disadvantages as well. The major disadvantage of your Google Colab is it's a shared thing. That is, whatever the CPU or GPUs you have, it would be shared. So if whenever I share these things, whenever we share the GPUs and TPUs, it might sometime happen that you may not get the GPU, you may not get allocated to GPU, and you may get an memory error. Whenever you get an memory error, you can use your AWS services, and inside AWS services, you have something called as AMI, which stands for Amazon Machine Learning Instances. You can use those, and you can easily get your memory. And if you leave your runtime disconnected, unused idle for more number of time, then it gets disconnected. Right. So these are some of the disadvantages of your Google, or these are some of the cautions which we have to take whenever we use your Google Colab. Now, coming to final thing, the best practices we need to do is whenever we do coding, first we try to do a title, then we try to write a preamble to it. Finally, we write the headings and documents. So this is how you would be using your Google Colab. Friends, I have not covered TensorFlow of Google Colab. Maybe that we will see in the later part. So this is here I will be ending it. Maybe in the next class or in the next talk, I would like to touch upon your NumPy and Pandas of Python, wherein we will be trying to check out what actually is NumPy and how it could be used and all those things. I'll try to touch upon in the next class. Okay. So thank you, friends. Thank you for joining me. And it was a great time. And friends, I'll be sharing a Google form, the feedback form. Kindly fill it up and let me know your feedback. Okay. So yeah, thank you. I'll be sharing the Google form. And if you have any doubts, you can message me in the chat box that is in the WhatsApp group, or what you can do is you can also call me up from your discussion forum. The discussion forum, whatever we have created, is just to discuss those things, and we can do a number of discussions there. It would be a knowledge sharing thing. So thank you, friends. Thank you for joining me. We'll again meet in the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.